In a game that was previously dubbed to be a title indicator, the result of 2-2 doesn't tell us all too much about Arsenal and Liverpool's title hopes, but the performances might. So in this video we're going to be breaking down the tactical differences and the individual performances of both Liverpool and Arsenal to get to the truth. Before the match even started, Arsenal had a question to answer. What did they do in place of William Saliba? Ben White was the answer that Mikel Arteta decided to go with, but then he needed to fill his role. Thomas Partey was the answer to that, and Yuri Timber came in at left back in favour of Calafiori, who picked up an injury. But I believe the best piece of news that Arsenal fans could have seen was that Bukayo Saka was fit and starting, and boy did he make his presence known. But not only that, but the tactical setup of Arsenal was something that was a little bit different. It resembled something they did a season ago, but it also was very different indeed in the way they set up. And Mikel Arteta, from a tactical point of view, did not disappoint. So let's break it down. So you got Liverpool in their 4-2-4 formation. Again, we know this is how Liverpool like to set up from a defensive point of view. Arsenal, I'm sure, will have known that, and Mikel Arteta definitely will have. So they did this. They decided to drop Kai Havertz and Trossard out of that Arsenal 4-4-2 and drop them into these positions. And this did a number of different things. Not only are you asking Bukayo Saka to push further up and Martinelli to push higher as well into these roles, these automatically get them closer to the Liverpool right and left backs. But Kai Havertz being in this role and Leandro Trossard being here just naturally splits Ryan Gravenberch and Alexis McAllister. Now, initially this wouldn't be a problem because you wouldn't necessarily have a runner through the centre of the pitch for Arsenal, but what it did do was it isolated duels between Andy Robertson and Bukayo Saka and Martinelli and Trent Alexander-Arnold. In particular, this was the avenue that Arsenal decided to go down, and this was actually in the build-up to Arsenal's first goal. You had Ben White with the ball, chipping it over towards Saka, but it was the drawing out of Alexis McAllister towards Kai Havertz that was the real issue. Luis Diaz didn't know what to do either, because does he A, try to help press Thomas Partey, try to help press Declan Rice, does he go for Ben White, or does he make the decision to come back and try to double up with Saka? He doesn't pick Saka because he's got Robertson on Saka and he thinks that Alexis McAllister might do that as well. But due to the setup of Havertz and due to the positioning of Havertz, Alexis McAllister gets drawn away and means he can't go and help out Andy Robertson. That's not an option because he can't leave Havertz by himself in a central position to then drift in field. That just can't happen. So a problem was automatically born for the Liverpool midfield. Let me try and show you what I'm talking about, and to do that I'm going to show you the first goal that Arsenal scored. So you got Ben White just moving up out of his centre-back role just a little bit further ahead, and this is a perfect example of Liverpool's 4-2-4. So you've got Diaz, you've got Nunez, you've got obviously Curtis Jones, and you've got Mo Salah. Just behind them you've got Gravenberch and you've got McAllister. Look at how McAllister's pinned himself onto Kai Havertz, who is just here, and this happened continuously. Havertz drops out of a centre role and then drops just into this pocket right here, and it caused McAllister no end of problems, and it meant, like I said earlier, that Andy Robertson has to contest with Bukayo Saka in a 1v1 situation. Look, there's them sprinting, but Bukayo Saka spun in behind, and it's automatically started to stretch this Liverpool back line. Because Saka is so wide, Van Dijk and Konate aren't as wide as that, which means that Van Dijk needs to come across, but there's a lot of space that needs to be handled, and obviously this is a really quick pace scenario. So when this happens, and when Bukayo Saka gets the ball, Andy Robertson is in serious danger. Not only is he going to need to stop himself before he gets to the byline, but at the same time he also needs to try and make sure that Bukayo Saka doesn't cut inside, and that's exactly what happens. Look at this touch right here. It's phenomenal. Just to pop it through Robertson's legs, and then Robertson's done. He's finished out of the game completely at this point, and it leaves Saka with a free shot on goal, and it allows him to go left, it allows him to go high. Just so happens he chooses the second option. It's absolutely brilliant, but it comes from the fact that Bukayo Saka was able to isolate Andy Robertson in that 1v1 because Kai Havertz moves across to that left-hand side of Liverpool, the right-hand side of Arsenal, and it was brilliantly done from a tactical point of view. But it didn't take Liverpool very long to come into the match at all. They actually got themselves back into it through a set piece. Funny, right, considering it's Arsenal's speciality. But let's take a look at it, because here I want to look at this. I want to look at Alexis Mac Allister, who's currently pinning Ben White and Gabriel Magalhaes. Now, another thing to really notice is Kai Havertz on this front post. Now, if you've seen my video of how Bournemouth managed to beat Arsenal, you'll know that Kai Havertz was just beaten at his front post by Justin Kluivert. And in this particular scenario, he's going to be beaten again by Luis Diaz, who is right here. But before we get to that, I want to mention this scenario right here, because Mac Allister does a brilliant job of screening and blocking both of the Arsenal centre-backs. Now, we need to remember that William Saliba is not here. And this is a big, big thing, because I think he would be one of the main aggressors when it comes to fighting the ball. And in that scenario, I think Arsenal are really missing out here. Not only do they have Gabriel stopped, not only do they have Ben White stopped, but Saliba's not there. This means the aggressive powerhouses of Arsenal's defence aren't able to clear the ball, and this is a major issue. Not only do Liverpool hit the front post brilliantly from a Trent Alexander-Arnold corner, but you've also got that blocking going on. And as that blocking goes on, you just see Luis Diaz come to the front post, and that allows him to get a really, really good flick on. At the same time, you've got Virgil van Dijk onto Thomas Partey right here, or Thomas Partey onto Virgil van Dijk. And as he makes his way into the box, he just loses Partey. In doing so, it gives him almost a free opportunity right here with this header here. We're going to take a look at another moment here as well, because I think it's really, really important. So let's break down this scenario right here. So look at Alexis Mac Allister. Look at his body shape. Look at him backing into Ben White. And this also prevents Gabriel from really coming around and getting across. Not only that, but you've also got Luis Diaz on the move. Look at him on the run. He's going to spin round past Kai Havertz. Two moments that are really, really important. This and this. And this allows for Virgil van Dijk, who's at the back post right here, to be able to come round. Really, really important stuff. And it's stuff that doesn't get noticed all too much, but it's really impressive. Again, the flick on at the front post allows for Virgil van Dijk to get his head on it, and Liverpool get their goal, beating Arsenal at their own game. Great. Although they managed to equalise, what I'm talking about is the dominance that Arsenal had in the first half, and this was down to the rotation that they had through their midfield, able to recycle possession and dominate the ball going forwards. The way they did this was through inverting Thomas Partey into midfield, but not only that, it was actually a careful transition of Leandro Trossard through this midfield area. And what happened was Trossard moved across, Merino moved up, Rice moved across, and Partey came into midfield. This did a couple of things. Number one, you're also taking advantage of Merino and Gravenberch, Trossard and Mac Allister, and that again leaves Kai Havertz free. This leaves Luis Diaz in a very tricky scenario, because does he drop or does he go forwards? At the same time, does Mac Allister go and take Havertz or does he take Trossard? All of this is happening while Virgil van Dijk and Konate don't have anyone to mark, and they don't want to be aggressive in case Bukayo Saka makes this run. They don't want this run to happen at all. And similarly, they also don't want this run to happen. Now, while we're talking about the fluctuation of players, another interesting thing that happened was if Merino didn't go forwards and he sat next to Rice, Trossard would then swap with Martinelli to give middle runs into the centre of the pitch. Now, this caused Liverpool no end of problems. The rotation in the centre of this was unbelievable for Arsenal, and it was top quality. A final piece of rotation was this. Because Havertz drops in deep and then goes towards this Arsenal right-hand side, the Liverpool left-hand side, that gives Saka the ability to then drift in field. And occasionally you did see him start to make those runs. He didn't fully commit to them, but he started to bring Robertson in field a little bit. And then that leaves him with space out wide. It was really well done from Arsenal. Arsenal hit back and make themselves go 2-1 ahead just before half-time. Again, a set piece, brilliantly done, brilliantly worked. Declan Rice should get a lot of credit for the great pass that he whips in. But before we get to that, I want to talk about these guys. And obviously these are the players that are going to make their movements in between the lines between these Liverpool defenders. But let's talk about why they're here. Because I've seen quite a lot of people talk about that. Why are they here? Why aren't they stood here? Why aren't they stood here? Why are they in between the Liverpool players? One benefit that really comes from this is the fact that you don't have the Liverpool players being able to mark individuals. And in doing that, these Liverpool players don't know when the Arsenal players are going to arrive. They don't know what kind of run they're going to make. They don't know where they're going to be standing. And because they don't know, it means that naturally they're always unaware. So what you're going to see is the Liverpool players jumping a lot, keeping themselves on their toes because they need to attack the ball when they can. But these Arsenal players are going to make as late a movement as possible to try and get the jump onto these Liverpool players. It's the anticipation and the lack of knowing that really takes Liverpool and any other team that you're facing by surprise. In making a late movement, you're unsettling that defensive line. And if they can't get to it, you're then in the driving seat for the cross that gets whipped in. But when it comes to the cross, it is sublime. It is absolutely brilliant. You've seen the Arsenal players get into their stations right now, get into their particular positions, and it's now time to go and head the attack. When you've got this happening, chaos is ensuing. But you've got Mikel Merino in the centre of this that's going to be able to get his foot on it as it moves into this channel of danger, the channel of uncertainty. It's really well worked and really, really well done. It is fantastic. It is a brilliant cross and it is asking to be headed into the net. That's exactly what happens. Pure class from Arsenal, who take a 2-1 lead. The second half, however, was very different. While the first half was very Arsenal related, very Arsenal heavy, the second half was very much Liverpool. And it was Liverpool for a couple of reasons. Number one, Liverpool made a change. Dominic Szoboszlai comes in for Alexis Mac Allister, and this does a couple of things. Number one, it shifts around things in Liverpool's midfield. You've got Curtis Jones instead being on the right hand side, he then moves to the left. He drops back into a double pivot, but in possession he moves forward as that central attacking midfielder that just holds the left hand side next to Luis Diaz. At the same time, you've also got Trent Alexander-Arnold making a more infield road in towards Ryan Gravenberch, and it looks like this. So now you've got almost these four, not quite a box, but it is something like a box. And then you've got Salah going on to Timber, and you've got Diaz going on to Partey. This caused Arsenal a number of problems, but at the same time, we have to talk about a big issue that really did affect them, and that was the absence of Gabriel Magalhaes. In the 54th minute, Arsenal lost their other main central defender, and I believe this rocked them, both mentally but also from a tactical build-up point of view. Kiwior doesn't have the passing range nor the ability that Gabriel Magalhaes does, not from an attacking point of view and not from a defensive point of view. And I think this just unsettled Arsenal to the point where it's not like they couldn't recover, but it really did hamper them. You've got Partey, who's not a natural right-back. You've got Ben White, who doesn't really play centre-back. He plays right-back, let's be honest. Kiwior, who isn't Gabriel Magalhaes. And you've got Jurrien Timber, who, while he's good, is starting to get a little bit tired in the second half. All of this comes together to create almost the perfect storm for what Liverpool would want to really put pressure onto this Arsenal back line. Now, Rice and Merino does a fantastic job of combating this, but it inevitably becomes a little bit too much. And this is down to the really good play that Salah has onto Timber, the way he spins in behind, he did that on a couple of occasions, but also the link play that he had with Darwin Núñez, driving into these channels. And it's these channels that I really want to highlight, because they did a really good job of just locking down both wings, really making it difficult for Arsenal to get out. And when they did get out, they snuffed out the danger, particularly from Saka and Martinelli, who tried to drive through. I thought Ibrahim Konate was unbelievable. If it wasn't for Saka really getting that goal and playing that huge part, I think Konate is in a big shout for man of the match, because he shuffled across and dealt with the absence of Trent Alexander-Arnold here, because he moves into midfield brilliantly. And he stops Martinelli on a number of occasions, as well as Leandro Trossard and so on and so forth. But overall, I thought both Liverpool and Arsenal were well worth the point. I thought they were both fantastic, and if there's any question about either of them having title credentials, I think they can be waved away. They're both sensational, and Liverpool carved out their goal brilliantly down, funnily enough, the same side that Arsenal scored their goal from, with Bukayo Saka. Mo Salah doing a brilliant finish from a great Darwin Núñez pass, and like I said, a great run into the channels. But it was the tactical changes that I found that Arne Slot made, that Mikel Arteta made, that made this such an entertaining watch. Szoboszlai moving into these spaces, being stopped occasionally by Merino and Rice. A really good defensive display from Arsenal, but I felt like they gave up the momentum of the match in the second half. But I think a lot of that was down to Kiwior coming in for Gabriel Magalhaes and Liverpool's rise in control in the game. Honestly, guys, a sensational watch of two great powerhouses in this Premier League. And finally, before we wrap up, let's take a look at that Liverpool second goal. So you've got Liverpool on the transition. They've just gained back possession. You can tell this by the Arsenal players just being a bit out of touch, a bit out of possession, and this eventually will cost them, especially the positioning of their left back and perhaps Declan Rice and all of these Arsenal players not really getting back. But you've got Dominic Szoboszlai with the ball, and he's going to lay it over to Trent Alexander-Arnold. But what I really want to highlight is this. I want you to take a look at these two, because Mo Salah's pinned himself over onto Kiwior, who's had to come across to cover for the fact that Mars Lewis-Skelly is not there. At the same time, you've got Ben White, who's also onto Darwin Núñez, and it's the run that Darwin Núñez makes that I think is so very important for this move. So if we just back it up just a little bit, you got Dominic Szoboszlai who's going to lay it over to Trent, who's going to play a fantastic pass over the top. And as this happens, a couple of things occur. So you've got these two Arsenal centre-backs who have moved over because of the absence that Mars Lewis-Skelly had here. You've got Mo Salah running in behind, so already you've got danger. You've got huge danger right here because the left-back isn't covering this channel, and this is the channel that I was talking about just a little bit earlier. Trent sees this pass and plays it through just towards both of them. As this happens, you've got two things occurring. You've got Darwin Núñez running for the ball down this channel, but you've also got Mo Salah making a completely separate run centrally, and this offsets Arsenal so well. Number one, you've taken out Kiwior and Mars Lewis-Skelly, so that's your left back and your left centre back just out of the game, and that leaves a lot onto Ben White. He has to come and cover Darwin Núñez, and then it's about the recovery runs from all of the Arsenal players who are not there, unfortunately, and this is down to the transition, Arsenal committing themselves. And you can't really blame Arsenal, but at the same time, they are exposed. They are pretty exposed right now. So you've got Darwin Núñez, Mo Salah making a brilliant run centrally. It's so well done, and it's one of the only opportunities that Liverpool really managed to carve out, but they take it brilliantly. A cross-field pass just across the box from Darwin Núñez, and he does it absolutely brilliantly. Weighted greatly, and you've got Mo Salah then taking that shot. It's so well executed from Liverpool. Clinical stuff, carving through Arsenal, very much like the way that Arsenal carved through Liverpool earlier on in the game. So you've got two goals on the same side that are very similar, and you've got two set pieces. These two teams couldn't be closer, and of course they're both going for the Premier League title. But of course, guys, I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Who did you think came out better, and who do you see topping the Premier League table? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Thank you ever so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, hope you learned something new, and I hope to see you in the next one. But until then, my friends, take care.